WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Good morning, WNOV family. Thank you for joining Money Talks with Attorney Coral, which is sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan Association, Wisconsin's only Black-owned bank. And it's the sixth oldest Black-owned bank in the United States. Columbia Savings and Loan Association, I think I say this every week, but it's because I'm just so proud. We're celebrating 100 years of service in 2024. This bank was founded back in 1924, so that's 100 years of service. I am Attorney Coral Plez, your host and General Counsel for Columbia Savings and Loan, and also a director. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. This show focuses on economic empowerment for our community, whether it's buying a home, planning your estate, starting or expanding a business, or gaining access to job training for high demand family supporting jobs. We want this show to be a resource for you so you know what resources are available to create opportunities for yourself and for your family. I have several guests in the studio this morning with me because we have a mutually valuable partnership to discuss, along with a discussion about an upcoming event for individuals and families in the community. I've been teasing it the last couple of weeks. It's a home buying seminar, but we'll get into the details of that as the show progresses. I am delighted to have in the studio today Tara Bayer, Vice President, Director of Marketing for Port Washington State Bank; Linda Shea, Vice President, Mortgage Lender, Port Washington State Bank; and Ngozi Omegbu, our very own loan officer with Columbia Savings and Loan Association. And if I'm not mistaken, this is Ngozi's third time on the show. Is that right, Ngozi?
I also have lost count. I think so.
Okay. Well, Tara Bayer, Linda Shea, and Ngozi Omegbu, welcome to Money Talks on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Audience, I've had the pleasure of briefly meeting Tara and Linda, but I'm coming to know Ngozi quite well by working together at Columbia. I was telling Linda before we even went on the air this morning that Ngozi is always delightful, and I say that to her probably once or twice a week at the bank because she is a delightful person to work with.
I agree with you.
Thank you. And I would like the audience to get to know each of my guests as well. So Tara, I'm going to start with you and ask you to tell us about your background.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name's Tara Bayer. Lived here in Wisconsin my whole life. Have been in marketing for about 24 years. I've been with Port Washington State Bank for 6 years. And I do live in the Milwaukee area, but I work in Port Washington. And a lot of people say, why do you do that? That's a long drive. But I'll tell you what, just like Coral was saying, sometimes the people you work with make it worthwhile.
Thank you. Linda, what about you? Tell us your background.
Good morning. My name is Linda Shea. I'm a mortgage banker with Port Washington State Bank. I also grew up in Milwaukee. I went to high school in Milwaukee. I've had various jobs in banking and retail and different areas that make me definitely well-rounded in my job. I love to volunteer in my community. That's what I do on my downtime, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you, and we're happy to have you here. Ngozi, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Good morning. I'm also a Milwaukee native, so born and raised here. And I'm now actually able to say I'm coming up on a decade of lending experience working for community development financial institutions here in our area. So I am almost feeling like I'm a little seasoned now in doing specifically community development focused lending, which we often see trying to balance the partnership of public and private funds to improve some of our community's metrics. So I'm starting to gain a little bit of traction here in community development lending. I know the location pretty well, being living here my whole life, and then just kind of studying government and public policy. I really do enjoy seeing where some of our policies are able to impact and actually improve the condition in our local community. So I'm a student of it, and I'm actually getting to participate in it as I come into my 10th year of lending.
That's great. And congratulations on 10 years of lending in Gozi.
Yeah, I'm at 9.5. So
9.5. We're rounding up today.
Yes.
So Port Washington State Bank and Columbia Savings and Loan Association are both FDIC insured financial institutions and equal housing lenders. Port Washington State Bank's nationwide mortgage licensing system, that's NMLS, is 460289, and Columbia Savings and Loan Association's NMLS ID is 810969. So let's break that all down and explain to the audience what those credentials mean. Either of you ladies.
Well, I can talk about FDIC insurance real quick because I'm sure people see that symbol in front of banks a lot. The real reason behind it is because you want to know that your money's safe if something happens to the bank. And thankfully, nothing like that has happened to either of us or many banks in Wisconsin. But we've heard about Silicon Valley banks failing. And the question is just what happens to my money when a bank fails? And an FDIC insured bank will basically insure at least $250,000 at each FDIC institution. So that includes checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs. There's more info on FDIC.gov, and I'm sure it's kind of boring information, but we always like to talk about it because it is important.
Absolutely. That sounds very important. So in Gozi, what does it mean to be an equal housing lender?
Yes, in alignment with federally insured institutions and banks, being FDIC insured means that we all have the same regulation to protect certain classes, and so we have a prohibition against discriminating on the basis of certain items. And I do have the list here so that our customers understand that when you're seeking services from a federally insured institution, we're not allowed to, or we're not taking into consideration certain items such as your race, your color, your religion, national origin, sex, handicap, or family status. Although some demographic information is collected, we really try to shield that from any sort of being the basis of the products or services we offer. We make sure that we're not lending or providing services on those bases. And that's why you'll hear me say, I just want to stick to the numbers.
No, that's a good explanation of what an equal housing lender is in Gozi. So thank you so much for that. Linda, can you tell us more about this national mortgage licensing system and what that's all about?
I sure can. So the NMLS, which we call it for short, really was put in place after the housing crisis. And it is a centralized database and licensing platform that regulates and tracks mortgage loan originators in the U.S. So each lender and each institution is assigned a license number. My number and Gozi's number follows us through our career. So any other place that we would work, we would have the exact same number. So you can go to the NMLS platform, look up our license number, and see if to see where we've worked, to see if anyone's had any fraudulent or ethical violations, which we have not, by the way. And it's just a way to kind of do some background check on the lender that you're working with. My NMLS number is 1419913, and Ngozi's number is 2077106.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that information. That's very informative. I'll bet there were a lot of people that really don't have that depth of understanding of these things. So I appreciate the way that the three of you took topics that are a little bit complex sometimes, and you broke it down and made it very understandable. So thank you for all of that information. So now I'd like to, or it is time to introduce Port Washington State Bank to the audience. So, Tara, can you tell us about your bank?
Sure. You may or may not have heard of us. We are a very, very old bank, 125 years old this September. We started out in Port Washington. That's where we are founded, where we still are. We have 8 branches in Ozaukee County, Mequon and Thiensville, Cedarburg and Grafton, Belgium, Fredonia, Port Washington, and Saukville. We do mortgages. Obviously, that's how this partnership started. But we also do checking and savings accounts. We do all types of loans, car loan, loan to pay off healthcare bills, loans for you want a fancy vacation. I mean, I'm not going to ask you about what your loan is for. We will just say that we have them. So yeah, that's a little bit about the bank.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. You mentioned that the bank is 125 years this year. Is it this year?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so that's fabulous. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I understand from my research that Port Washington State Bank is literally a family affair. So, from my research, correct me if I'm wrong, but I went online and I looked this up. The executive chairman and CEO is Mr. Steve Showalter. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Yep. And the president, chief operating officer, and director is Mr. James Showalter. What's the relation between those two? It's got to be a relation there.
Yeah. So in 1899, this gentleman, Clarence Hill, co-founded the bank. And that gentleman had a son. His name was Don Hill, C. Donald Hill, actually. And C. Donald had a daughter, Betty Hill. And it just so happens that our current president, his grandmother the grandparents' grandfather was actually working at the bank and met Betty. And so the two families joined. Then okay. Ron had Steve and Steve had James. And so now 5 generations later, we are a family-owned bank, which is somewhat of a rarity in Wisconsin, not as rare as you would think, but definitely very rare across the country. And so we're really proud because we sort of act like a family. Like when we think about business, when we think about personal requests, we keep family in mind. So it's important to our culture.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I was going to ask you if that's something that was common for it to be basically a family.
Yeah, there's
situation.
Still a few out there. But yeah, when you think bank, you usually don't think, oh, I'll bet they're family owned. It's just, yeah,
sure.
Not that common.
And I think you mentioned this, that James is actually the 5th generation of the family to lead the bank. Wow. Yeah. I'll bet that is rare, but that's fabulous. So today, Port Washington State Bank has nearly $1 billion in assets. Is that correct? And what, Tara, has been the secret to Port Washington State Bank's success?
It's really pretty simple. It's just when someone comes in, you take care of them, you're nice to them, you keep things in, very simple terms to try not to overcomplicate or, kind of get into the weeds on things. We try to really do a good job of being human to human, helping someone out. And usually we've just grown by that person being very satisfied and telling their friends, and then we help their friends and their friends tell some more friends. And then 125 years later, we're still doing what we're doing.
Right. And you're the marketing expert, so you would know that those are good things.
I do. I get surveys and I ask everybody, how did you hear about us? And a lot of times it's just, hey, you took care of my friend, you took care of my uncle, and he said that you were the best. So I'm coming to you.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So I would like the audience to know that Port Washington State Bank and Columbia Savings and Loan Association have partnered to establish a mutually beneficial business relationship. When Mr. Ernest Jones became president and CEO of Columbia Savings and Loan Association back in the fall of 2022, Port Washington State Bank was one of the first to reach out and establish a relationship with Columbia. I have learned in nearly 20 years of running my own business, and by that I'm referring to my law practice that I've been running for nearly 20 years, that business is first and foremost about relationship building. I've never really advertised my business. It's kind of like what you were just saying, Tara. People tell people. There are a lot of referrals. But what I learned over the years is that people do business with those who keep their word, who follow through, who operate with integrity, and as you pointed out, treat people well. That's very important. And then if you're really fortunate, you also get to do business with people that you actually enjoy. So I'm pleased to acknowledge the fact that Port Washington State Bank has deposited $250,000 with Columbia Savings and Loan Association, along with a $10,000 grant in support of what we're building. So it is a pleasure for us to work together towards common goals of providing excellent service and education for the community, such as the upcoming home buyer seminar. So Tara and Linda, I just wanted to take this time during the show to thank you and your team publicly for your support and participation with the home buyers event that we're going to be talking about in the next segment of the show. And Ngozi, we obviously appreciate your support as well. So before we go to break, Tara, would you tell our audience why you and your colleagues at Port Washington State Bank have partnered so extensively with Columbia Savings and Loan Association?
Of course. And it's probably the same reason a lot of you out there are considering investing in Columbia. When you think about what a bank does at its core, you put money in a bank and then they're taking that money and they're helping other people. They're getting them homes, they're getting them cars, they're getting them money to help pay healthcare bills. They're just helping others in their community. And we see the genuine support that CSLA provides to this city, to the Black community, and we want to be a part of that in any way we can. And so this partnership was born just out of the fact that we see how much they help the community and we wanted to help them do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. One of the most expensive investments any bank has to make is in technology. Financial technology or fintech can cost millions of dollars. Columbia Savings and Loan Association launched its Centennial Fund to modernize its technology. And I would again just like to acknowledge Port Washington State Bank is one of our first contributors. What made your leadership decide to step up and be first in participation with that request?
I think it was probably the proximity and again, that core shared value of community. It's really evident that the histories are very similar too. You're celebrating 100, we're celebrating 125. So we both have a lot vested in Wisconsin. And I think that's truly the tie there is communities and the fact that that's what we're both about.
Right. So I understand that your bank didn't just contribute, it issued a challenge. Would you tell the audience a bit about the challenge?
Yes, when Columbia Savings was out to raise funds for their upcoming technology needs, we thought, why not invite other banks, and there's several in Wisconsin, to come along with us. And so we put out a match campaign asking for other banks to chip in. And the idea is just that we know there's other people just like us. There's a lot of great community banks in Wisconsin, and we know they would want to help if they only were aware.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. One of the favorite aspects of our partnership is really creating opportunities for families in our community, and that is the joint home buyers seminars. So I think after we go to break, we'll talk a little bit more about the home buyers seminar in detail, and I'm going to hear a little more from Linda and Ngozi during that segment. But we will be right back with you with more information as relates to the home buyers seminar. Thank you so much. You're listening to Money Talks with Attorney Coral, sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan Association. We'll be right back.
March is Women's History Month. Tiffany Nguyen, a former Milwaukee Courier intern, is an accomplished, award-winning marketing and communications professional with over 10 years of industry experience. She is currently Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin. Over the past decade, Nguyen previously worked for organizations in newly created roles that led her to create and establish best practices, processes, workflows, brand architecture, and capacity within marketing and communications departments. Join us in saluting Tiffany Nguyen during Women's History Month. This moment in women's history was brought to you by U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank has more than 50 locations in the greater Milwaukee area. Visit usbank.com to find a location near you. U.S. Bank, a member of FDIC. Does owning a home seem out of reach? Let us help you outline the steps to get there. Join Columbia Savings and Loan Association and Port Washington State Bank for one of our home buying seminars on Friday, March 15th at 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Learn about home buying steps for success, how banks look at credit, and discover grants and programs that could be available to you. Seating is limited. Register now at www.pwsb.bank/seminar. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. NMLS IDs 460-289 and 810969. The Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program end of the season is approaching. Don't miss out on benefits and help with your WE energy bill. Just go to keepwarmmke.org. It's made it easy for you to schedule an appointment. You may also call 414-270-4653. Don't delay. Call us today. Again, that's 414-270-4653. Or visit us online at keepwarmmke.org. This is administered by the State of Wisconsin Home Energy Plus Program.
This is Martina Golan-Graves, President and CEO with Mental Health America of Wisconsin. I want to take a moment to remind you that your mental health matters. This time of year can be stressful, but we have programs and services committed to supporting our community. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping adults and kids live mentally healthier lives. We offer online screenings, outpatient therapy, and a peer-run warm line for support day and night. Call us today, 414-276-3122, or visit mhawisconsin.org to learn more about these services.
If you're looking for mouth-watering eats and delectable treats, look no further. Eat local and visit the Sherman Phoenix today, where you can find everything from delicious organic wings and smoked barbecue to satisfyingly seasoned vegan food to sweet, buttery, made-to-order desserts. The Sherman Phoenix is also home to a day bar, serving mixed, frozen, and tropical drinks. Experience the Sherman Phoenix effect at 3536 West Fond du Lac Avenue, open Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Visit theshermanphoenix.com to learn more.
You're listening to WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Okay, thank you. We are back with Money Talks with Attorney Coral, and I have some wonderful people in the studio with me this morning. I have Ms. Tara Bayer, the Vice President, Director of Marketing of Port Washington State Bank, Ms. Linda Shea, Vice President, Mortgage Lender, Port Washington State Bank, and our very own Ngozi Omegbu, who is a loan officer with Columbia Savings and Loan Association. So thank you for joining me again, ladies. Welcome back. Before we went to break, we were about to talk about the home buying seminars that's coming up. So Linda and Ngozi, I'd like to hear from you both on this. Tell us, first of all, when is the home buying seminar?
Yeah, so the home buying seminar is March 15th, which is Friday, which is tomorrow. And we have two of them. We have one at noon and we have one at 5 p.m.
Okay. And where's the location for these seminars?
It's at Columbia Savings and Loan, which is 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue.
Can anyone come to the seminar, or is there a necessity of advanced registration?
So really, anyone can come to the seminar. We'd love it if you would register, which you could call Columbia Savings and Loan to do that. However, if you don't, that's fine too. You can just come and join us at either of those times. We've actually had people that come to both because they learned things at the first one, but yet wanted to ask more questions or learn more at the second. Please bring a friend, a family. We would love to have the more the merrier, because we have a lot of really great information to share.
That's fabulous. So, if someone wanted to contact Port Washington State Bank to call in and reserve a spot, what number should they call?
We would suggest calling 262-284-4416. Or you can also go to pwsb.bank/seminar. When you get there, you'll see a really easy form where you can register. You can let us know if you've got any dietary restrictions. Let us know which seminar you're coming to. And I mentioned the dietary restrictions because we are going to feed you with cousin subs. So that's another reason to come.
So that's always a plus where there's a free lunch involved. I think I'll run upstairs and be a part of the seminar tomorrow. I love cousin subs. So Linda, back to you. Why should the public participate in a home buyer seminar?
Yeah, I feel like our seminar is a little bit different than seminars you get at other banks. A lot of times they'll give you that process of what it's like once you have an accepted offer and what happens before you close on the loan. What we want to do is do a little bit different. We want to give you a good overview of the home buying process from the mortgage lender's experience. And kind of help build you a roadmap of what we're going to look like to get you approved for a loan. So even if you don't think you're ready now, like I said, we're going to help you build that roadmap and really kind of dig into those items that we look at that help you qualify for getting that mortgage in the end. So you might have some homework up front. This process might be easier than you thought it was. We're going to debunk some of the myths out there that you think might stop you from buying a home.
That sounds good. So if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is that people can come to the seminar to learn how to get ready to position themselves to buy a home. You don't have to be ready to necessarily buy a home right away. Am I understanding correctly?
That's exactly right. Like I said, sometimes you are ready and don't realize you're ready. But other times you don't know the process or what we're looking for that makes a good loan. So you can come in and you can ask your individual questions. We'll go over different scenarios. Everybody's life is different, so every mortgage loan is different. So we'll go over those items with you and give you a good overview. The other thing that we do too is we're going to start using words that you should know. So you may have heard them before, you might not know the true meanings of them, but we're going to start kind of really giving you an education on what the mortgage terms are, what you can expect through the process.
That sounds excellent. So, Ngozi, what can attendees learn during the home buying seminars in your experience?
To be quite frank, because we're speaking in such a general or broad terms to people, we're not speaking to someone's individual challenges. As Linda said, we're kind of giving you the perspective of the mortgage lender's side and what a lender is looking for. So the biggest thing I enjoy of people learning is, honestly, if you listen to Linda and I, we kind of give people an understanding of our different institutions. There's sometimes gray area. There are so many unique caveats to everyone's individual credit profile that we really like to, I guess, at the end of all of our rambling, we let people know that there is not just one single factor that makes you ineligible. There are sometimes banks are able to have policies that will sort of allow exceptions, or there are gray areas, or there are we talk a little bit about credit score models and how a score looks different on one day versus another day on your Credit Karma versus what the lender pulls. I hope that people take away from this that maybe they're not the person who's qualifying them for a loan. Let us do that work as professionals. We really do have just a million rules around this, but we want people to just focus on the sort of large factors. I think we hit about 5 topics on what to get ready. If people do that internal homework of getting yourself a little educated, but then still trusting and meeting a professional like us that can actually work through the numbers, we hope that people kind of walk away with it of maybe I am ready, or maybe I didn't know I could get ready sooner than I thought. That my credit score today may not be the only factor that keeps me out of a home. I think we go over down payment and percentages. People have these ideas of I must have 20% or it's a no-go. I hope that from this discussion and as we shed light on these areas that people understand there's so many different programs, there's different rules. There may be a loan product that fits you in your place right now. We hope that people hear us talk in general about these terms, get comfortable meeting a lender who actually can work through some of these challenges in your credit profile, and then feel free coming back to actually let us do that work in the future when we're talking one-on-one so that we can kind of navigate what one person's unique challenges are.
Okay. And Ngozi, you mentioned down payment assistance. So do you talk about down payment assistance for first-time home buyers as part of the seminar?
Absolutely. That is, I think we get to, that's maybe one of our key factors at the end of it is what percentage is the lender contributing for your loan amount, and then what percentage is the home buyer contributing as their skin in the game, we call it. So we do go into that in general, and then we talk about down payment assistance generally as it's available to first-time home buyers. And so, as Linda said, we want people to get familiar with these terms, and it's very important that we define a first-time home buyer is an important term that may not be what you think it is.
And that's what I was about to ask you. What is the definition of a first-time home buyer? That sounds like one of those terms of art that we would like to have an understanding of.
Exactly, and that's why we do this. So a first-time home buyer, as it's defined in, I would say at least some of our major mortgage programs, there's a very clear definition to us where we are defining it as someone who has not had an ownership interest in a property within the last 3 years. So Attorney Coral, that is very key to people who come to us and say, oh, I owned a home 20 years ago. I don't think I can get a grant. And we say that is not what we mean by a first-time home buyer. So not having an ownership interest in the last 3 years. There's also some other technically defined areas where you can be a first-time home buyer. I think the note is like recently divorced people where the spouse may not have had their ownership interest stated in the property title. There are all these kind of other caveats where it may be applicable to someone's situation. And that's why we want the general public to trust us to vet out whether the request qualifies or not. And so that's one of the things that we really want to kind of get over the misperception of what is the first-time home buyer. We get that one a lot. So we start with making it clear of who is a first-time home buyer. And then we talk about down payment assistance of if you meet that standard of not having an ownership in the interest in the last 3 years, we would like to take a look at your income or your benefits that you receive and see if you're eligible for down payment assistance.
So how much down payment assistance can a family gain through first-time home buyer assistance programs?
So an individual's eligibility for down payment assistance, think of it more as there are a number of programs that provide assistance. If I can mention a couple of them, both of our institutions, we have access to down payment assistance through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago's Down Payment Plus program. So that's a regional bank of banks that makes down payment assistance grants to any of our eligible home buyers. So the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago's program makes up to $10,000 available as a grant. Another program that we see a lot and we definitely appreciate is the Milwaukee Home Down Payment Assistance Program. So we have our local municipality has some restrictions or qualifications for the down payment assistance that's available to really vet families in our community and start paying taxes. So it really varies because we look at the information from a customer and see if they would be meeting the eligibility for one grant or another. And the best part is generally we see that these grants can be complementary to each other. So we don't have a set dollar amount going into it. We have a sort of profile of the borrower and whether their income or the location of their home would be sort of an eligible grant project for these various sources. So we really do. We ask for a lot of that detail from our customers, where your pay is, and we run our numbers back and forth because we're trying to see if you meet the programs for all the grants that are available. And we also rely on our home buyer counseling agencies to do that really comprehensive eligibility check as well. They look far and wide for grants, and it's based on kind of how the request is, where the property is going to be, and the income levels that the grantors are trying to help certain people, generally targeted towards low and moderate income families.
Okay, that sounds great, Ngozi. At the end of last year, I believe, Columbia Savings and Loan had a customer who qualified for $21,000 in down payment assistance grants. Ngozi, can you speak to that a little bit? Were you familiar with that?
Yes, that was my loan. Closed the very end of the year. And we really, like I said, we're not in control of whether someone meets the requirements for all of the programs. So this customer just absolutely, it was 3 grants that the property worked, her income worked. And so it's a sweet spot to be in where you meet all 3 grant requirements. The grants work well together. They don't ask someone to sort of double up or increase their interest. The grant programs sort of all make room for each other. And so it just so happened that there were enough resources. And that's where I like to thank the input from all of our public policymakers that help make these resources available. When the funds are made available and we bring qualifying borrowers to the table, we are able to see significant grants come into the transaction and really make homeownership possible. So yeah, we try to look for everyone to see if they might meet the requirements. We always, I think, as a lender, appreciate free money coming into the transaction. And then just like in this scenario and many others, the grants can be used, we say down payment assistance, but they can be used for down payment and closing costs. So we try to apply the grants to cover as many costs as they will allow. And then in wonderful scenarios like this, where we have excess grants and we can't refund the money to the customer, we must use it in the transaction. Our institution, we will increase the percentage of down payment, lower the loan amount, so that ultimately that person is coming in with a lower loan than we initially calculated, a higher down payment percentage paid in, and a lower monthly payment for the term.
Right. And as I understand, that's what happened in this particular case, that part of that money after closing costs was used to increase the down payment amount so that the buyer ended up having to borrow less and the monthly mortgage payment was lowered as a result. And I understand that not everyone qualifies for every program or grant out there, but it is exciting when you can help families get access to all of the support that is available to them. So thank you, Ngozi, for making that happen in that situation. Thank you so much for that. Linda, not only are their home buyer programs and grants available for low to moderate income families, there are also programs to help veterans purchase a home. Would you tell us a bit about the support that is out there for veterans, please?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite products. Veterans have a really great opportunity with products out there to help them get into a home. And first of all, if you're a veteran, thank you so much for your service. And yes, you may be able to qualify for many different types of mortgage products that could have up to 0% down payment for them. Also, the interest rates seem to be really agreeable. They're very nice interest rates that are associated with these types of loans usually. So the best advice I would give is talk to Ngozi. I think she has a really good VA program at Columbia Savings and Loan. You could certainly reach out to her and she could guide you through that process. VA loans too, a lot of times don't have any private mortgage insurance attached to it, which means that you have to pay a little bit of an insurance addition to your mortgage loan if you don't have 20% down. And usually those VA loans don't have that attached. So there's some really nice products for our veterans.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, listeners, it's a myth that families cannot buy a home right now. I hear that often from people. There is help out here. You just have to know how to access it. And the home buyer seminars are designed to help you do just that. Even if you have some credit challenges, come out to the home buyer seminars. The session can help you find out what you need to do in order to get ready for homeownership. I think that's what you were mentioning a little bit earlier, Linda, that you're not expecting people to come there necessarily with an 800 credit score and everything in order and ready to buy the home and close that day, that it's an informational seminar in order to see wherever you are in the process, how do you make the next step? How do you get an opportunity to move forward? So, Linda and Ngozi, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit more. What are some of the other myths and misconceptions people have about homeownership?
I'm going to tell you my biggest recommendation. It is to not listen to family, friends, or coworkers about purchasing a home or getting a mortgage or what mortgage rules are. Every loan is different. I say it's like a fingerprint. So your scenario is different than theirs. The products that are available are different than what was available to them. Rules change constantly. So what happened to them is not the same as you. What you really want to do is come and talk to us. We do this all day, every day. You do this 1, 2, 3 times in your life. Let us help you navigate through this. Let us give you tips and guidelines on next steps, on let's take credit for an issue. Credit is very forgiving. So you might be in one spot one day, but we can give you tips on how to get credit in a better spot another day. Or down payment, like Ngozi said, there might be things that you are not aware of that we are, because again, we do this all day, every day. And it doesn't get any better than us being able to help a customer get into their home. It just is super satisfying. And I was talking to someone this morning about awesome customers that we see every day. And when you purchase your home and you go off and live your great life, we miss you because we got to know you and got to be friends with you. And we hope to see you again another day if you decide to move to another property or whatever. But we really are genuinely there to help you to get to the goal that you want to get to.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Who should consider attending the home buyer seminar? I know we've covered this a little bit already, but we really want to hit it home and make sure that people have an understanding. Who should attend this seminar? Who is it for?
We say it's for potential home buyers, and I think it seems redundant. We're saying home buying. I want, because I get the request questions, I want the community to understand we are talking about what we call primary residence. We're not at this point talking about what looks like a house, but might be an investment property or a business purpose. So I guess as long as we're all clear that we're talking about the residence where you will live, we really are looking for anyone and everyone from the public that they might be interested in buying a home, and also those that may own a home but are thinking of their family members. So sometimes we get parents who want their adult children to get ready. People are sometimes contacting us and seeking information on behalf of a family member or a friend that they want to get that information to. So we're used to that as well. We like to have our information available so that you may even come to the seminar, but be sharing it with someone that you want to point towards our direction. So really, we know just statistically, the percentages of home ownership in our community could be increased. There's significant work to do in a majority of sort of, especially in the Black community in Milwaukee. The numbers do not look well for the percentage of those that own homes. And so at Columbia here, our focus specifically, we feel like we have our work cut out there are a number of people who could be moving into home ownership in our community. We're thinking of you all in how can we make ourselves available through this or other ways that we might get some potential home buyers in here. So we're open to other ways. Our contact information is available if someone can't make it to this seminar.
Thank you so much for that. And for the benefit of the audience that maybe there are some who've just joined us, do interested individuals need to register in order to participate? Is that a requirement to register before participating in this seminar tomorrow?
It's a strong recommendation for just logistical purposes. We're trying to get an accurate head counts because, as Tara mentioned, we're planning some nice refreshments. And so really it's for logistics, head count, and then our planning of seats available. So we do recommend that so that we know who's on site and how to plan for them. It's not required, though. We understand we had some inclement weather last year when we did this March seminar. There was pretty much a snowstorm, I think, right before it.
Mm-hmm.
So things don't
well, I hope
always
we don't
work
have
out.
that. Today's rain is more than enough for me.
Yeah. So we understand things happen, people cancel or can't attend, but if you would like for us to, even some people pose a question or ask us to reach back out. Registration is helpful for us to track certain special requests or people who maybe say, I can't attend, but please contact me later. So we do like to get an idea of who's interested, even if they can't attend.
Okay. And how might a person register if someone's listening to us now and they would like to register to RSVP for tomorrow's seminar?
Please register at www.pwsb.bank/seminar. So we're hoping primarily if you're comfortable finding this website on the internet, you can complete your own registration information. But truly, a number of our registrations have come through the bank. And so some people, if you're also comfortable just calling the bank and letting any of the staff know that you're interested in signing up for the home buyer seminar, we will take a message and get back to you so that we can just add it to the list ourselves. So if anyone's comfortable registering at pwsb.bank/seminar, or calling Columbia Savings and Loan at 414-374-0486, we will take that registration for you.
Would you repeat that number one more time?
Columbia Savings and Loan at
Please.
414-374-0486.
Thank you. Thank you. How long do you expect the home buyer seminar session to last? I note that there's a session tomorrow at noon and then another one at 5 p.m. How long do you anticipate the session to last?
Well, bank management really does try to keep us to an hour because Linda and I could chat all day.
All day.
But logistically speaking, because the bank is still in operations and we have regular business hours during that time, we will try to keep our sessions to an hour. And if people sometimes get there late or have to make a few changes, we're comfortable with people leaving us a note. We may have to take longer conversations to a scheduled meeting or something. So we will be fairly on time with our start and stops. But people who can't make it within that hour are welcome to contact us for another time.
Sure. And I'm noting here because I'm looking at one of your flyers, excuse me, that advertises the seminar, that if people can't make it tomorrow, there's going to be additional dates that the seminar will be ongoing. Can you share what those upcoming dates will be?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Thursday, June 27th, we're going to have 2 more seminars, again, 12, and this one will be at 4 p.m., so just a little bit earlier. And then we will also have another one October 4th, which is a Friday, and that 2 again during that day. So 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. at that time.
So it's good to know that if you're for any reason not able to make the seminar tomorrow, that there are some upcoming opportunities that are going to be later in the year. But hopefully everyone who's listening will be able to make it tomorrow because we've been just promoting this event on the radio show here for the past couple of weeks. So this isn't the first time for this audience to get this information. But hopefully we'll be able to have people that are able to make tomorrow's date. So again, this is a beautiful flyer that you have. One of the things that it lists with bullet points is some of the things that you'll learn. And I know you touched on some of these things earlier, but what you'll learn at this seminar is how owning your home builds generational wealth, how banks look at credit, how to build better credit, types of mortgage loans and their benefits, available grants and down payment assistance, and things to avoid before your home closing. So those are some of the topics that are going to be covered in tomorrow's seminar, and we look very forward. Before I think we have to take a break, but when we come back, we will just give some closing comments and some final information about tomorrow's seminar. So thank you so much to the audience for listening, and we will be right back with you with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you.
Hello, Milwaukee. I'm Mr. Debo, the program director here at the all-new